stream.
Mm.
We are coming in for
Oh,
left.
do we need to touch the bottom? We're good.
No, we're good.
All right. I feel like we're coming in pretty hot. Right about now. Great. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Pia Chats. Today, I am so blessed, so honored, and so excited to speak to my amazing friends and inspirational people in my life, Aaron and Greer. And to begin, I would just love to ground everyone in. So whether you're here live or on the recording, I feel like grounding in opens all of us up to receive even more from any conversation, because all of a sudden we arrive here now in a bigger way than what we were before. And so if it feels good for you, depending on whether you're sitting, standing, driving, whatever, just stay safe. But I'm just going to invite in a noticing of your feet first. All of us have pretty busy heads. There's a lot of thinking going on. And so let's just give our feet an opportunity to resource our head and to resource the rest of our body. So just grounding down through your feet. And as you ground down, just inviting your energy to settle in, coming down. And usually when I do that, my breath starts to naturally expand and I can find a deeper rhythm. And the rhythm that I love to invite in is just a slight elongation of your exhale. So whatever your inhale is, can you just lengthen your exhale so it's a little longer or even double the length of your inhale? And just beginning to access this natural rhythm, I just would love to call in the highest light and the highest love for this conversation. So it will always be for the most benevolent outcome for all. We're all going to learn. This is a co-creative space. We've all chosen to come here for a special reason, and it is to share energy. And so in this sharing of energies, I also just want to honor and invite in and call in the 4 directions, the 4 seasons, the 4 life cycles, and the 5 elements, and all beings and ancestors of the lands on which each of us live, work, and play. And calling in all of our ancestors to support this conversation so that we may up-level, grow, flourish, and evolve in new ways that hold the greatest love and hold the greatest light. And so maybe just with 3 more of your own breaths, just to feel your own energy in the skin that you're in, the physical, mental, emotional, spiritual selves, here now, to flow in with this beautiful vibrationally amplifying conversation. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And for anybody who is watching live, I also want to invite in any questions, comments, feedback as we go. I'll check in and have a look at my phone and to see how that's rolling for people. And also, if you're watching the recording, I know I've had a few people send me messages saying, can I watch the replay? Which I love, that level of excitement. And as you go, please offer your questions, comments, feedback, and Aaron, Greer, and I will love to be able to respond to you in this forum. So thank you. Aaron and Greer, I'd love you guys just to introduce yourselves. That would be perfect for people. Just let them know a little bit about you and whatever feels good for you.
Thanks, darling.
Brilliant. Thanks, Pia. That was really beautiful. Yeah, so we're a husband and wife team that tantric embodiment coaches. We're here to really support busy parents and couples to deepen in connection and intimacy and to live life with more joy and vitality. We've been walking on our path of awakening for, myself over a decade and Greer even longer. And
I'm a little bit older.
that's part of our polarity. And yeah, we've just come out of our phase of nurturing our boy, our son. He's now 4 and in kinder. So we're now also birthing a new phase of our business, and it's called Tantra for Parents. And we're here to really assist families to live with more harmony and to support parents to care for themselves so that they can care more for their children and have time and energy for their relationships as well. And and to really make the home a temple. And yeah, we really love what we do, and any opportunity to show up and serve is welcomed, and grateful for that. So thank you, Pia.
Blessings. I can't wait to keep talking. Let's Greer, let me share you.
Oh, well, I think Aaron did a pretty good job. Yeah, I think that, we've come to where we are from following our path and from really committing to our truth. And for me, I know a big part was like dropping my veils. And it was when my dad was diagnosed with terminal cancer, it was 10 years ago. I was super close to him, but it was once we knew that he was probably going to die, which he did. I just had this radical commitment to just every time I was with him, if I noticed there was any subtle veil around or masking or trying to be, I always wanted him to be proud of me. And I just kind of like let it down. And that journey, he went on to pass about 2 years later, but that journey really led me to have a very powerful experience of the sacredness of all of life and the sacredness of grief and the sacredness of fear, and to just really lean into that and follow that. And that's kind of led me to be here today. So, and actually on that grounding meditation, when you called on the ancestors, I had this beautiful energy come down my right spine. I just knew it was Dad. And where we're sitting is actually where we birthed Kaizen. Well, I did most of the birthing, but Aaron held space.
I patted your back.
Yeah, he pat my back.
Reminded to do butterflies.
But there was a moment in that birthing where this entire room was filled with the male ancestors. And so that really came through in that moment for you. So thank you, darling, because I hadn't felt Dad for a while. So yeah.
Oh, blessings.
Yeah.
Well, I feel like we have so many alignments in the things that we're passionate about, love to express, the divine service that we love to offer. And so I am excited for this expansion of perspective and understanding for everybody who gets to listen, and obviously myself as well. And where I'd love to begin, because I feel like there's just a lot of misunderstandings and a lot of different concepts around the word and the practice Tantra. And I feel like obviously in neo-Tantra practices, like New Age Tantra practices, a huge emphasis has been on sexuality, and sexuality is really important. However, I feel like for so many people, it creates quite a barbed environment where people feel a little unsure about what to say, what to ask, where to go. And so I'd love to hear your understanding and your awareness and your practice of Tantra. It's a huge question, I get it, but let's go.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, and it's a very important question. Yeah, so sexuality is definitely a really key aspect of Tantra, and part of our message and our philosophy is that what happens within the bedroom is predicated on what we're doing outside the bedroom, and it's our lifestyle and our connection and our communication and our self-care that really impacts how we show up in the bedroom, and that we can actually have a sexual chemistry and a sexual connection that actually enhances and gives us greater life force and more vitality, rather than being a source of, as a man, depletion. Men are not educated on the power and importance of our sexual fluids, and how when we use that unconsciously, it depletes us, especially, once we get over 30 and our testosterone starts to drop off. I know for me, learning to cultivate a relationship with my sexual energy and my sexual fluids actually allows me to cultivate more life force, so that I can show up for Greer and be present for her, can show up for my children, be present for them, can show up at work and have the energy to do my job and my work, and also have time and energy for the family when I come home. And so yeah, for us, Tantra is about living from a space of balance that allows us to cultivate more life force. So so there's a masculine and feminine energies that we believe are both inherent within both sexes. So the male body and the feminine body, we both inhabit and both have masculine and feminine energies, and that when we balance these energies, we actually, through self-care practices and lifestyle practices, eating well, sleeping well, all of these help us actually build more life force, so that we can live more congruently with, you know, our life's mission, our life's purpose, and be able to serve at a greater level, and therefore have more joy and fulfillment and deeper connections in relationship.
Yeah. And I think, I mean, you know, when I first kind of started to explore Tantra and what is it, you know, it was a time in my life. I mean, honestly, I was recently divorced, and having been a very long-term marriage, I was like, oh my God, I'm totally going to become an ethical slut and go and explore this tantric world and discover all these beautiful men and, you know, all these things. And that's what I thought I wanted to do. And so I started looking up like tantric courses and feminine embodiment courses and how to open. And it was actually, I didn't realize it was massively coming from wounding and massively coming from not enoughness. And this fear of like all of this stuff that I haven't experienced, I kind of need to do it. But it was almost like this getting at energy. And it's you know, whilst that kind of, and I very quickly realized that actually that's not that's actually not at all what I want. What I really want is intimacy, deep intimacy, incredible connection and depth, and an openness to all of life and to the beauty and the sacredness of life. So for us, you know, the sexuality and the sensuality brings with that incredible, actually, like deep motivation to care for our body vehicle. Like we've had gastro go through the house, or the kids had it and we had it, and then it just like our life force was depleted, and that has a big impact on our sexuality and sensuality and, you know, that desire body. So there is that part of it, but so much more of it is about learning to see the sacred in everything, and that the whole of life is sacred and interconnected. And so, you know, even just before the call started, I was like leaning under to get the light, and like I caned my head on the corner of the desk. I was like, I tend to cry when I hurt myself. I'm like, ow. And it's just like, this too is sacred. You know, what if I don't judge this and just be with this? And so that's a big part of Tantra too. And how that applies particularly for parents and childhood is just learning not to judge the stuff that's coming up and the stuff that's blocking, and remembering that everything is here to help us if we choose. And we can look into, okay, do I need to have better boundaries here? Do I need to let go of this perfectionism? What, you know, what's driving this yeah. So do you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, I'll just say, like, you know, we really believe that the archetype of the depleted parent is outdated, and that it's actually the best thing for our children to witness and see how an adult cares for themselves, how an adult respects themselves by having boundaries so that they can meet their own needs. And that this is, you know, a really big part of having more resilience as a parent. Like, we know that when we're depleted and tired and stressed, that's when our worst aspects sort of come out. You know, for me, it's, you know, anger and frustration and whatever it is. And so, you know, when we can learn to meet our own needs, and we have a partner that supports that and is on that journey as well, and we can show up with so much more resilience and presence and capacity to really, you know, be compassionate, understanding, present, kind, caring parents that you know, our children really need. And that's why we have, you know, niche down into Tantra for parents.
Yeah. And also, yeah, sorry.
No, go.
Well, for the kids to witness what healthy sexuality and sensuality looks like, you know, and that it is such a natural part of who we are, and for them to respect the need for parents to have time and privacy at times, and for that to be a natural, and, you know, the conversations that I'm already having with my 10-year-old daughter that are age appropriate, but just to be really open and really taking off the taboo, and make, you know, that discovery phase really natural, but also, you know, really coming back to love and respect for the self. And yeah. Well, there's so much I want to say, but I'll wait for you to ask questions.
No, there's so much. I just want to reflect a few things back from that conversation, just to particularly the points that I obviously have a bias towards, just to land that for people who are listening. So what I understood from where you're at with Tantra is that it is this discovery of the union within self first, and bringing in different rituals and levels of sacredness and devotion and commitment to self beauty in the mundane sort of practices. It doesn't necessarily have to be, I'm going to a temple and I'm so holy. Like this is my temple and I am so holy. This moment too is holy. This moment now is holy. So it's just this movement of now. And within that, it's looking to reclaim energies that have been basically lost or given away when we haven't known our boundaries. And I certainly know that in my own experience that depletion completely changes the way that I can navigate and negotiate boundaries because I've lost myself, like I've lost my truth and I've lost my expression. And so the other thing that I understand that you help people recognize and identify and amplify in their life is what is their truth of their expression, like what is the true movement of energy within me. And I also know from you guys that it would be that ability to express how I'm feeling rather than pointing a finger at someone else and saying, you need to change your behavior so that I feel better about myself.
Yeah.
Like you need to change the external something so that I feel safer within myself. It's about being able to address your own needs because you're finally learning not to minimize them or repress them or deny them. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And I think, that what you're pointing to is that what?
It's that little noise you made. That's hilarious.
It was exciting.
It's excitement. The radical self-responsibility and the radical honesty are kind of two cornerstones of what we speak of. Because when I get really, I mean, and then perhaps first I need to be really honest with myself about how I'm feeling and what's coming up within me, and then be really honest that this is my stuff. If I'm feeling it in my body, if I've got charge on it, then there's stuff for me. And so that's so important, and where it's beautiful in relationship, and how our big thing as well is causing any triggers, causing that, bringing that and harmonizing that into a deeper connection. And the beauty as well in a committed relationship is that there's this kind of agreement that we're okay, I'm responsible for my stuff and Aaron's responsible for his stuff, but our relationship can stand as this really beautiful safe space for which it's safe to arise those parts of us that are wounded. And when we do that and are able to put that on the table, and a lot of what we do with couples is kind of sharing different communication strategies of things around, look, this is something, it's not my whole truth, but I've been trying to clear it, and I'm stuck on it, so I'm going to bring this and I'm going to say it, and know that Aaron's great at saying, oh, you said to me so many times, I'm scared, I don't want to say it because I feel like it's going to bring up your not enoughness, but I just need to say it. And so that just creates such beautiful trust, that he trusts me that I can handle whatever it is, and that just creates a bigger and bigger space for which this truth and this like unfolding of ourselves and one another. Of course, that's all energy and moving, and then that creates such a sacred place for that when we do come together physically. It's such a deep joining, because it's not just this person and this penis, and it's like there's so much to Aaron that we're like, I'm opening to and receiving, and that's where the magic and the sacredness really comes in.
Yeah, such deep respect and honor. And I feel like the safety piece is huge. And that's obviously a huge passion of mine, to help people feel safe in their bodies and feeling safe in relationships and safe in being able to bring your expression and bring your truth, and knowing how to negotiate that from a kind of a somatic, like a body-based level, as well as a verbal level. I love the way that you support people with that. And I feel like the modeling of this within a family unit is not something that anyone I've ever met has grown up with. And so being able to offer this to couples or people who are parents or have been parents, I just feel like is huge work because of the ripple effects in safety, in expression, in the owning of your own truth and authenticity, because we all know that we give up authenticity to create connections with others so much of the time. That's where so much of the trauma bonds come in relationships. And so unraveling all of these pieces, I'd love to hear a little bit more about your program at the moment, how you're supporting people, like just in the illumination, the unveiling, like the opening of perspective, because there's obviously just a lot of different pieces. And so, yeah, share with me how you're doing that with people right now.
Yeah, absolutely. So, we support people to, first of all, learn what they really need to nourish their physical body. so that they can have the resilience to be able to enter into that alchemical process of turning triggers into intimacy and our wounds into wisdom. We're as Greer said, we learn Tantra is part of seeing everything as sacred, and whatever is arising is here to help us. And that means that we move towards our uncomfortable emotions. And this is part of what we support people in doing, and part of our programs is having the emotional literacy of understanding that part of being a spiritual being is not just focusing on positive emotions and having toxic positivity, that actually inherent within our power struggles or our shame or our fear is actually a lot of our true power. And that when we can go into and alchemically transform our wounds, that actually creates such a deep bond. Like Greer said, like when we show up and we merge in the physical, the reason it can feel so deep and so nourishing is because we've learnt how to hold space for one another, and we've got that capacity to be a safe container for one another because we trust each other, we trust the process. And I just really want to emphasize that we trust the process of knowing that whatever is arising is here to be cleared and processed and integrated. Because when we integrate that we can connect at such a deeply profound level, because there's nothing blocking us. Unhidden there's no hidden resentments or something that hasn't been forgiven or said. It's like because we've dropped that mask and revealed our true self, we're connecting at that soul level, at that heart-based level. And part of how I support men is learning to actually bring their sexual energy up into their heart space, because what's between the sacral and the heart is the solar plexus, the sense of power and ego. And that when a man is wounded and in a space of not enoughness, then his sexual energy will be one of dominance and conquer, and to extract something or to take something from woman. But when we as men come to the sexual experience from a heart space, then we can, and we're also got a healthy relationship with our own masculine power, and are not afraid of the depth of power that can come from masculine energy, but have it tempered with our feminine softness and compassion. And we show up in such a way that it is nothing short of sacred. Like that sexual experience is a holy experience. And I just want to touch on that word. Holy is associated with divinity, because our most divine self is when we're in our wholeness. And that wholeness is a masculine and feminine, an divine father, a divine mother energy within us. And that when we can nurture ourselves, which is that motherly energy, and meet our needs from a nurturing feminine space, but also have access to our inner father and have a sense of safety, and we create that safety through the boundaries, then that's an inner marriage. That's an inner alchemical process that actually gives birth to our own inner child. And this is the true holy trinity. And that inner child is our joy, our innocence, and our play. And that's the inner alchemical tantric process of really coming into a space of true wholeness as a holy person, as a God incarnate, where our full spectrum self. And that's part of what having a sacred conscious relationship can facilitate. It's an inner embodiment process. And yeah, I'll stop there.
Mm.
That was such a beautiful feminine explanation of what we offer. And in the masculine, I'll bring in the masculine voice that we offer mentorships. Is that what you're asking as well?
Both. I mean,
How we
that
do
was
it?
an amazing explanation. And
Yeah.
I just feel like for people who are interested, who want to trust a mentor who already knows how to trust the process, who has walked the path, like that's the whole point of working with a guide and a mentor. And I know that for a lot of people, they just want to have a few more ideas of how that happens. And I feel like, Aaron, you explained that really well. Like, I totally get it. And Greer, let's add your component.
So unusual for me. I'm going to try and give the masculine version because I never actually do. But yeah, so we offer mentorship, so 3-month mentorship. So Aaron's got the tantric dad where he works one-on-one with the dad, and I've got the tantric mum. I'm also trained in Ayurveda and somatic. So we look at the 3 pillars of health for women, which are, well, and for all humans, but for women in particular, there's sex and sleep and our food choices. I know, it can be so easy when our life force is low. I will use the I. When my life force is low, I can choose food as a way of like trying to get energy. And of course, that impacts my sleep. And so these 3 pillars are really intertwined. And so I support women in like really stabilizing those pillars. And then we have a tantric couple mentorship as well. So we work 2-on-2 with a couple for 3 months. Got the couples retreat coming up in Tassie later on in the year, and we offer a free workshop as well. So we've actually got one coming up on Monday on Labor Day, and we offer those once a month, and that's a 1-hour workshop that anyone can join for free.
Oh,
Yeah.
great. Well, we'll definitely add the links in for that in the comment
Yeah.
section so that people
Great.
can join that workshop. That sounds awesome. And so can people work with you? Are these 3-month containers, are they fully online, or are they, they're fully
Yep,
online?
they're online.
So
Yeah.
your in-person retreat, that's in Tassie towards the end of the year, but otherwise this is a fully online program that people can access.
Yeah, and we've got a short course coming up in May too, and so that will have it will be like, it can be available online or in person. So if you're in person, you can join us live for the opening ceremony, but we'll be hosting an online one too. And we really love to give people what they need, and so we're clear on what it is that we offer. And also, like I had someone reach out this morning about they'd had a particular experience, they just wanted to unpack it, and we hosted a cacao ceremony, just a 2-on-2 cacao ceremony for a couple on Sunday, which was beautiful too. And so if people feel called to us in any case, then we always invite just an alignment call to have a chat and hear more about what it is you're really needing and what you're desiring, and whether we're a fit from there.
Definitely. And my other question, I'm just trying to feel into, like, I mean, I would hope that many people are really interested in your work, because I feel like it's powerful, potent, very effective, very available and relevant. But what if people have never done much before? Like, what happens if there's a little bit of, hesitation, or I'm not good enough, or I don't know enough, or can you just speak into those components?
Yeah, sure. I would say that, like, I've shared some metaphysical concepts, but we have a very grounded, practical approach to spirituality. And that means looking at, the hormones in particular, addressing like things that are depleting our dopamine levels. And, as men, how do we increase our testosterone and things like this? And also having very practical frameworks, around communication, and how can we have these delicate, vulnerable conversations and have a framework to actually be able to hold space for one another and be able to be radically responsible in our triggers, not suppress them, but also not let them come out in really unconscious and hurtful ways. So there's very practical frameworks, as well as, the sexual embodiment practices. I show men how to last longer in bed and how to start to cultivate the energy and then move it through the nervous system and different bodily systems. Yeah.
And so are you guys connecting with people once a week? So is your 3-month container? Is it weekly that you're?
It's fortnightly for the 3 months. Yeah. And it's common. It's really common if people come as a couple to have one partner who's really into it, and the other partner who's not dragged along. We don't want to work with anyone who's being dragged along, but it's natural. And we just were with someone in this last week who the woman was kind of getting into her women's circles, and the man had never really done anything, but they're aware, they've been waiting for their kids to grow up and have space to be together. And then what they've noticed is that now that there's space, they're kind of like, it feels a bit scary because they haven't been there for a long time. And, what was voiced is that the fear is, if we really actually prioritize that time for intimacy, then this sense of like this quiet sense of disconnection, it's going to become even more available. And that's it's scary. It's scary to really get honest. And what's beautiful and what I shared with them is that in those moments where we're feeling disconnected, just in purely saying, oh, I'm sorry, I'm in my head, I'm just not feeling present. That as soon as I speak that, I become present. And so we can connect on that. And then that's how the trust starts to build, and that's how we build connection. So it's, we're so passionate about the work that we do because we know the power of it. And at every stage of our journey, we've had to say yes to this new stage that we were like, we knew we were up for, but there's always that sense of like, oh, what's it going to bring up? And so that's really natural, and that's a really good sign. And as Aaron said, we want it to be really practical and really doable. Most parents are, and most everyone, right, these days, it's like 24/7. There's so much to do. Last thing we want to do is, okay, now you've got your 20 embodiment practices to do. It's like, yeah, like, a couple of weeks ago I was exhausted and I was like, oh, I should like do my non-linear movement, or maybe I should go for a walk on the beach. Like, you know what? The most embodied thing I can do right now is watch like an episode of Netflix, which I never do. But for me in that moment, that was actually the most abundant, most luxurious, most nourishing thing. I wasn't trying to avoid anything. I was like, actually, that's what I'm actually going to feel safe enough to rest, which is a huge thing. We've got to feel safe in order to be able to rest. And so bringing that in, and it was a really good episode.
Great.
But we've also realized that we really limit Netflix in our lives because it creates disconnection and distraction and avoidance. And so it's important to use Netflix like consciously. It really is.
I absolutely agree with that. And so I know that you just did a really quick one then. You just leaned into Aaron and said, I'm really in my head right now, and I would love to be more present while I'm having this conversation, or something along those lines. Do you have another little quick kind of quickie tool, or like, I don't know, just something that you feel like sharing with everybody that they could take home and start implementing now?
Yeah.
What?
Red flag or Belgium?
Yeah, sure. Um, yeah, something that we do if we know that we have something to share that's going to potentially trigger the other person is to simply like wave a red flag, or not quite literally, but
We've
like,
got 5 different flags, and we've been
but we just like, preface like, um, I've got to share something and I'm aware that it's going to potentially trigger. And so that can just prepare someone to, take some deep breaths, like breathing, again, practical, down to earth, like relax your nervous system, learn to open so that you can be receptive to what the other person's got to say and not immediately going to trigger. And if you're already aware that, this conversation has the potential to be triggering, you can prepare yourself for it.
Well,
And
yeah, and the person offering it can prepare themselves, because the more regulated we are,
yeah,
then we're obviously then able to co-regulate, or offer co-regulation to that other person. I
yeah.
yeah,
really love that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And checking in, like, is now a good time. And the other word you've said is a growing edge conversation, which means that this conversation is going to take us to our edges. And so it would bring up this particular feeling in my body. I'd be like, "Oh," but what's happened now is that over the years with these growing edges is that we've expanded. And so what used to feel really unsafe is like so comfortable with now, because there's so much trust there. And
yeah,
so it actually gets a lot easier, but it does mean that if we're at our edge is pretty big. So if I'm at the edge, like, well, it's kind of big, but there's so much trust in the process. And so the growing edge ones, I've always really appreciated when you said that. And again, it shows that Aaron trusts me. He trusts that I can handle it. And so that helps me step up and handle it. And if I don't handle it initially, it's like, hey, this is bringing up stuff for me. It's like, okay, well, maybe we can check in. And the other thing is that we've learned is that if something comes up, that I will often process a bit quicker than you, and you might need some space. And so initially I'd be like, okay, well, what does that bring up? Like, what, and I'd be like, tell me, share, and you'd be like, I just need space. And so again, we've learned that. And so, and it often it can be good. So that I just need like a half an hour. And if it was huge, and maybe, I actually need a day to be with this or whatever it is, but giving some kind of time frame that's not locked in stone, but just to kind of let the other know that I need to be with this. And the other thing I think is that when we have been in trigger, that you might say, look, I'm actually not going to say anything at the moment because I know it's not my highest truth. So I just need space to go. So again, being responsible. I've got a lot of energy, a lot of heat. I'm just going to hold, I'm not going to suppress it. I'm going to go and be with that, feel it, breathe through it, do my own inner work, and then clear as much as I can so that when I come back to the conversation, we can be as present. Whilst also staying compassionate with one another because it's bringing up our stuff. And so, yeah.
Yeah, and I'll just add to that, like whenever I notice that, I'm taking it personally or I have a need to defend myself, then I've still got more, internal work to do before I start to share what's going on. And that's quite often when I'll need space to to be with the emotion because, the emotion of shame, is tied into the belief that I'm not enough. And so often when I'm aware that, Greer might say something and it will trigger my shame and that I'm not enough and that I've actually got to let the sort of dust settle before I can see clearly of what's going on within me and therefore be able to communicate clearly, not from the trigger, but, be honest that, when you shared that, it made me not feel like I'm not enough and, share that. But, the emotional charge is sort of calmed down and I can speak from a
You're able
place
to
of,
cultivate sacred space for yourself. And again, I don't feel like
yeah,
anyone ever taught any of us
no,
things. Like you've learned it as adults, and now you get to share it obviously to other adults who then get to share it with their kids, their family units. And I mean, I just cannot even tell you how much I deeply honor that process. I know from my own experience that cultivation of space seemed unfathomable at times, and now it's so available. And I know for all the people listening that that's what walking the path, and particularly with a mentor, is all about. Like being able to be reminded time and time again, because we're all going to drift off the path. Like that's normal. Like, oh, what's going on over there? What's going on over there? Oh, that old familiar path that I know very well, I'm going to go back down there, And so when we're carving out basically new identities, we are forging new boundaries. So when you're working with people who understand deeply these processes, not just from a cognitive point of view, but from a embedded body point of view, like that is just so powerful. And I'm so glad that you guys are doing the work that you're doing. Thank you.
thanks,
Thank you,
Pia.
Sally. Thank you. There is one other thing that I can share. Can I share one other thing?
Yes, love to.
It's kind of the concept of looking at I think so much in order to like be able to have conversations where as much as we can, stepping away from being right, from and remembering that we get to choose to be a team. Like we get to choose to look at this. Okay, this is coming up to us. So let's put it here and let's look at it with curiosity, with compassion. Again, whilst still feeling what we're feeling, but we find couples will often have what we call complementary opposites. So an example of that would be when we go into trigger, less so now, but our innate kind of default response is that I go into like a victim martyr and you go more into aggressor, more aggressor. And so what that means is that it's a complementary opposite. He goes that, I go like this. And so the beautiful thing is for us to come into our rebalancing and wholeness. My softness is requiring Aaron to soften, and his strength is requiring me to strengthen as well. So there's this beautiful when we let go of the but I'm doing this and you're doing that, it's like, okay, if this is here to help us, if we've chosen one another at the soul level to alchemize and come into our own union, how can we use one another's shadows and strengths to help balance? And so it's been awesome because those times that Aaron has come out in more, in a more, he's never been aggressive, but that more aggressive energy, it's really required me to kind of come more into standing. And likewise, and you've been required to soften and come into deeper compassion. And so that's been,
And that's the cultivation of safety. I just cannot go over this
yeah,
point enough for all the
yeah,
people listening. Like I
Yeah.
feel like it's almost impossible to reach that arena unless it's kind of by accident, unless you've cultivated a huge amount of safety. And that's
Yeah.
where the sacred practices of learning how to show up for yourself, create union within yourself, like the tantric work
Mm-hmm.
that you guys offer, that's what
Mm-hmm.
helps people forge the
Mm-hmm.
safety and continue to expand the safety. Like, you might have a level of safety within yourself now, and imagine if that was bigger, imagine if that was more embedded. Like,
Mm-hmm.
you just get to flourish in all new ways, and you do
Mm-hmm.
get to be much more flexible and adaptable. That's what I find. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
And
Mm.
sometimes the safety comes, it's like going to the gym, you get bigger by working the muscles. So, I remember there was a really key moment for us where Aaron actually gone and had a breathwork session, and I was pregnant with our son, and he came home just like so empowered and shared, bye, and just like, and it brought up, it was so big for me what was shared, and we both went into this state of like, he was like, but and I was like, oh, and then like you said, I just feel like that there's something wrong with me, and I said, I feel like there's something wrong with me. Like what he shared I felt like there was something wrong, and then by my reaction, and so then there was this like we just looked at each other. We were both in such deep trauma
Huge triggers.
vortex. And we just looked at each other like, oh. And then
Yeah.
so there was this like, oh, look at us both feeling like there's
Shame.
something wrong with us. And like, oh, I love you. And it just like dissolved, like
It's
instantly.
gone.
But that moment created that full like just demise of safety. That from that, boom, it was there, So yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Is there anything else that you feel like sharing, offering, speaking into?
I just would love people to join us. Come to one of our free workshops. We share a communication model. We share a sensuality practice for time-pressured couples. That's free. We just want to, share that. And, we've got courses coming up, and, just jump on board, get onto our newsletter. We're writing articles every week, and yeah, we just would love to connect and get feedback, like, what's resonated, what have you found helpful, anything you want to challenge us on. We're really open to growing and exploring through this, and have it be a co-creative endeavor with those that, resonate with our message and our philosophy.
Yeah, and we really want to know like what is it that couples are really struggling with? What's actually what are they wanting to move towards? Because we're so like honored to be doing this work and to be doing this service, and we really do want to it's this big part of why we've incarnated in this lifetime at this time together. So yeah.
Yeah, I certainly know from my own experience and just from people close to me, it's the disassociation. It's like those not knowing what to do with the feelings inside that create these perceived blocks. And it's that level of intimacy. Like, if we can't see into ourselves, then we don't want other people to see into us either, because there's that inherent sense of shame. So all the things that you've already spoken into, like, that's literally what I see. Like, that's been my experience of my recent lived past, and like the experience of those that I see close to me. It's more an inability to be able to feel, because we've forgotten like the power of our own body. So I feel like you've absolutely ticked all the boxes to help people feel again, and to feel embodied, and to feel their authenticity, and to feel their courage. So thank you.
Thanks,
Thanks, Pia.
darling.
Or we'll share the link for those watching. I just want to remind you, questions, comments, feedback. I know Jana Joy said conscious Netflixing. Brilliant. Thanks, Aaron and Greer, for your beautiful wisdom, and Pia for offering this powerful container. So we are always delighted to hear from you. It's really beautiful to get some sort of feedback and questions. And obviously, Aaron and Greer are offering their free workshop that's coming up on Monday. That's right.
Yeah.
And so that link will be there. So if this conversation has excited you in any way, shape, or form, why not just jump on and spend an hour more with Aaron and Greer and find out what else could be available. I really look forward to hopefully seeing Aaron and Greer in person. Oh, it will be in April.
Yeah,
But I send you love across the waters to
yeah.
Tassie. Thank you so much for connecting
Thanks,
with me
darling.
today. Lots of love to everybody watching, and we will connect again soon. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks, Pia.